Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today we're going to take a fully spoilery look at Transformers Earthspark Season 1, Episode 3. There will be all sorts of spoilers, so you have been warned. If you don't want these spoilers, go check out the links below the video to get yourself a copy of Humans Are Weird. I have the data. Short Stories of Humans' Absurdity. All I can say is, for as much build-up as we have in this episode, there had better be a payoff. I demand in just payment for my precious attention over the course of this series 3 things. Megatron's deep, dark secret, Robbie and Mo getting some life-threatening telekinetic powers, and Dorothy Malto's tragic backstory, how an implied army soldier has terror in the skies as her catchphrase. I just can't tell if this show is going to be worth a full season of reviews yet, and the fact that I can't tell is driving me a bit crazy. Imagine, if you will, the flat surface of a pool of water. The water is glittering with flashes of sunlight. You squint, and you can see below you the fluctuating outline of the tiles. You long to dive in, but the problem is you just can't quite tell how deep it is. Is it the 12-foot pool that will accept you and fulfill your desires? Or is it the 3-foot pool that is going to snap your neck? You squint to see the number that is supposed to be painted on the tiles, but the waves just don't let it come into focus. However, meanwhile, you are at the pool and still having fun, so you just keep squinting. This episode left me still intrigued, somewhat delighted, and somewhat perplexed. So, on the surface, this is just one of the classic episodes. What do I mean by that? Just as there are only 7 stories for any given cartoon named the Transformers franchise, there are going to be certain episodes that have to be done. I.e., this one is the pre-training episode, where the reluctant teacher needs to get in touch with the new recruits. Bumblebee has been assigned to teach the new bots, and he's having trouble with it. Now, this episode hasn't just been done before. It is always done in every action-adventure series that involves a team. May I just say beach volleyball and leave you with whatever mental images that might haunt you with for the rest of your day. Yes, this is a classic and overused trope. However, if you have watched any of my videos, you'll already be expecting me to quote C.S. Lewis and his earnest admonition that originality is only found in telling your story well. If you try to be original, you're gonna fail. Just tell a good story. And this episode is a good story told. The trope is selected because it is logical for the course of the story. Bumblebee was a scout. He worked alone and didn't have or need extensive people skills. Yeah, everybody liked him, but that was when Bumblebee had little to no responsibility over others. He could afford to be friendly with everybody because he had no power over them. And here's where I confess a mental failing of mine. I let pre-existing canon interfere with my enjoyment of the current media. This show clearly establishes that this is a straight-up continuation of G1, most likely from before the famously traumatic movie. And I was irritated by Bumblebee having to develop these necessary people skills as a leader, because I was comparing this Bee to his Transformers Prime counterpart. But this is not that Bee, and given the lower maturity and responsibility level of G1B, it's not only logical, it's natural for him to have no command of teaching skills. I certainly recall the first time I ever had to teach a class, and that swamped in over my head feeling that this Bee's face clearly expresses. So that element of the story, the fact how this episode is set up, is very logical. Well-told story, well-chosen tropes. Then, branching out, there is that elephant in the room, the big, gray, suspiciously friendly Megatron. In this episode, he's training in a holographic training room. Now, if this show is the shallow pool, if it is just going for surface-level entertainment, that was a cool scene. It does serve a purpose. It serves a purpose. It's showing us some of the tech the Autobots and therefore Megatron has access to, meaning we'll probably see a holographic setting again. However, if this is the deep pool, if the showrunners are making every scene of the episode count for at least 3 things, Megatron was in a dark place. Megatron was essentially in a cell, a prison of hard light and lies. Was something done to force his agreement with Optimus? Megatron is shown to still very much be the Megatron of old, relying on force and intimidation to gain control over others. Was that scene representing him fighting some kind of coding? If so, does Ranger Malto know? Was that comment about Optimus always seeing the bright side of things, even if there wasn't one, tied into the fact of Megatron's behavior? Ultimately, I am asking if a children's show is going to deal with the potential question of morality of mind controlling a tyrant warlord for the greater good. Prime went there, or went very similar places. Rescue bots wouldn't dare, and this show really seems to fall in between them. So where is this Megatron story arc going to land? We just don't know yet. Then we have the significant amount of time the episode spends on the developing bond between Robbie, Mo, Thrash, and Twitch. This is, in this episode at least, this is cute. It is a classic life lesson about teamwork. It makes sense because Thrash and Twitch are essentially toddlers. You try getting a toddler to do even the simplest thing when they are in the wrong emotional state, when they've worked themselves up into a fury. We've all witnessed a toddler temper tantrum. If this movie is The Shallow Pool, that was a nice, shiny lesson about cooperation and empathy that most kids are going to enjoy. Yes, Twitch needs to control her emotions or bad things will happen. She has powers, and if she can't control them, she is fully capable of hurting many people. Toddlers are remarkably strong, and they can hurt their friends if they allow their emotions to run rampant. This is an important life lesson if the show is aimed at such a young audience. And, on the other hand, Bumblebee needs to understand that Twitch is just a child, that she can't fully control her emotions yet. And it makes perfect sense that Bumblebee doesn't understand this. Bumblebee is canonically one of the youngest of the Autobots, and all of the Autobots younger than him were brought to full emotional maturity deliberately created by Vector Sigma. So it makes sense that Bumblebee has this mental block, this inability to understand the intense emotions of a toddler, and that's why he's having to rely on the senior Maltos for his information on this. This is all nice, shiny, classic kids show stuff. The adults teaching the older kids to help the younger kids through their emotional development. But do you recall the end of the first family game night when Pops Malto was trying to keep family peace with his imitation of a calamari? Twitch's anger is feeding echoing rage in not only Thrash, but Robbie and Mo as well. So far, the show has only portrayed that emotion sharing as positive, but in this scene, you have the damage Twitch causes to the barn, her entire body literally sparking with electricity. The rage on Robbie and Mo's faces as that anger feeds into them. That should have negative consequences both on the human children and for the human children. At the very least, serious complications. Is the show going to follow this hint and go deep, like Transformers Prime did, with Raph nearly dying from his association with Bumblebee? Or will Transformers Earthspark stay a bright, shallow, cheerful show? I don't know yet. When psychologically tying the mind and soul of these children to these alien creatures, there's no way that's not having consequences. But those are the kind of consequences that a shallow children's show would ignore. I don't want this to be a children's show, though, so I'm looking, I'm scratching, I'm trying to see if they're going to follow up these hints. And the fact that the hints are there is promising. Then there was the big reveal for the chapter. This Ranger Malto isn't just a veteran, she's a disabled veteran. In serving her country, her right leg was taken from her. Now, what I love about this element of the show is how the reveal of this fact was handled. For the entire first 2 episodes, Ranger Malto is wearing pants, and boy, do I have thoughts on those green canvas pants. I once told a historical reenactor about those pants, and he just apologized. So, here we see Ranger Malto in her civilian shorts that show her entire prosthetic leg, above the knee amputation from the thigh down. And I had to watch the show twice before I even noticed something about her leg was different. And then I had to hunt through the entire episode for a clear enough view of it to be sure it was actually a prosthetic and not just a knee brace. A shallow show commonly uses mobility aids as a prop. Wheelchairs, walkers, Prosthetics are put up front and center and made a big deal of. Look at us. We remembered to include a visible disability in our show. Praise us, aren't we so good? A deep show just has it there, doesn't make a big deal out of it, and this attitude fits with the character of a soldier and a ranger both. Again, I swear I know Dorothy Malto. I'm telling you, I shared a cabin with her in the Cascades. I listened to her talks in the Rockies. Whoever wrote that character either is a Parkie or has worked with them, and someone on the art team has worn those horribly functional green canvas pants. So, the presentation of the leg says this is a deep show, that it's not just there for surface brownie points. There are, I won't even call them hints, they're just elements that might be developed into complex moral issues. Megatron, potential PTSD, consequences to having a child's mind and body linked to that of a different species. The fact that the elements are there bodes well for this turning out to be a complex show. But 3 episodes in, and I'm just not sure yet. Plague it all the rust, I want this show to be good. I'm getting emotionally attached to it. I want it to reach across the generations like they are clearly trying to do, and touch the parents as well as the children and grandchildren they're showing these things to. So 3 in, and I squint, looking down for the depth that I fear isn't there. Well, on to the next episode. Check out the links below the video to get yourself a copy of my book, Humans Are Weird, Let's Work It Out. Hit that like and subscribe button, and peace out, my wonderful viewers.